Welcome to Beyond Words Presents. My name is Whitney Diffenderfer, and today we are here with holistic physician Dr. Stephanie Marengo, and also world-renowned astrologer Rebecca Gordon. They are the authors of our newest book, Your Body in the Stars, which I have right here. It's so beautiful. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
And I want to make sure that everybody watching knows that they can submit questions, because I'm sure you're going to have a lot of them. I know I do. You can use the Google Hangouts app, or you can use the hashtag BWPresents. And please be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and also follow us on YouTube. So my first question is probably a rather obvious one. In the world of astrology, most of us think about horoscopes. That's the first place that we go. So my first question is really, how do you relate the body and the stars? And Rebecca, I'll direct that one to you just to start.
Sure, and then I'm sure Stephanie can add to that as well. So first of all, in the beginnings, well, I can say when astrology was first becoming popularized, it was actually, it was done in tandem with health. Basically, a physician was not allowed in the early Hellenistic period and the era of Hippocrates. A physician really could not diagnose a patient without looking at the temperament, the birth chart, and the time that they became ill. I mean, that was necessary. So this happened for thousands of years, and throughout the entire Middle Ages as well, and Renaissance period, astrology was used in tandem with health, the body, and really all physicians had to know this. So it's almost somewhat recently that these two disciplines became more separate, and we're simply bringing back two things that have been just intrinsically tied together for centuries.
Can I ask, what happened? Do you know?
The age of endarkenment. You know. Well, there was a time when, you know, I would say in the 1800s, right, when the holistic worldview began to get fractured. And this whole I think, therefore I am, mind-body separation model became popularized. And science is a great thing, but it also brought about a lot of separations, that mind is separate from body, and that reality and food and your external place, that it doesn't affect your actual inner ecosystem. And so you know, as science and the body and health and astrology just began to get sliced and diced up and fractured, astrology just was sort of cast into this realm of entertainment and horoscopes. And then health and being a physician was this completely separate thing, and they were almost untouchable for a very long time.
Yeah, I know that if I were to go in to see my doctor and he started talking about the stars and my astrological chart, asked me when I got sick, short of just figuring out how far into my illness I was, I would probably, I would be a little confused. But Dr. Stephanie, have you had a lot of luck integrating it with patients? Like, have they been able to listen to you?
You know, just one thought, Whitney. I think your doctor would be even more confused than you would be if he was asking you for your birth chart these days. Because historically, as Rebecca was mentioning, astrology is also the history of medicine and science, whether or not you believe in astrology. Certainly, when I was in medical school, I had no idea that Hippocrates and the school of Hippocrates, which is behind the Hippocratic Oath, which most physicians in our country have taken, he was an astrologer by default, because there was no separation between medicine and astrology and geometry and all of these different fields. They were one and the same. They were developing at the same time. In my work, I'm not a medical astrologer. Medical astrology is as complex a system as traditional Chinese medicine, as Ayurveda. The way I integrate it, or rather, I meet people where they're at in my practice. So if patients are open to it, and I believe that that level of understanding will behoove them, I absolutely bring it in. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I had a patient who, he's more or less, you know, he's aware of astrology and he knows his sun sign. He's not for it, he's against it, but he's open to it, and he's an Aries. And the guy he is in his head. He's a financial analyst who's in his head, in his head, in his head, and just carrying a lot of muscular tension from here to here. And so as I was working with him with head and neck circles, literally just to loosen and open up his head, you know, I would tie in not just what was going on in terms of releasing muscular tension, but also themes for Aries, who can get headstrong, who can get stuffed in their heads, because Aries relates to the region of the head.
Really quickly, could you guys go through what regions what body regions are related to different astrological signs? I know what mine is, but I'm sure other people would like to know what theirs are. Would you go through those, Dr. Stephanie?
Of course. So from head to feet, we start with Aries in the head of the ram. We travel down toward the neck of the bull with Taurus. Gemini relates to the upper limbs, including the shoulder, the arms, the forearms, and hands, so you can't see on the screen. There we go. We have the chest of the crab for Cancer. Leo relates on the posterior side of the body to the upper back and the heart, actually. Virgo is the abdomen and the core, the belly of the Virgin. Libra is the lower back. Scorpio relates to our sacral center. Sagittarius, our hips and thighs. Capricorn, our knees. Aquarius, our ankles. And we find ourselves grounded at our feet with the feet of the fish, Pisces.
Awesome. Thank you.
Rebecca, did I miss any?
You did great, of course. Well, beautifully said.
And so one of the things that I think even I thought when I was first given this book, when we first started to publish this book, is that if I am a fill in the blank here, if I'm a Scorpio, that I will have problems with this, or this part of my body. But that's not how it works, right, Rebecca?
Right. I'm so glad you brought that up. So yeah, I'd love to clarify that. So it's sort of like whatever sign you are. So let's say you are a Libra. That is the region of the low back. So basically what that means is that your low back it's used more. That emotional, psychological, spiritual, and physical part of your existence is activated. And the low back can be either really strong or it can be either very susceptible. Just like an athlete is more prone to injury because they're always moving. It's sort of that same concept. Mm-hmm. So naturally, you know, each sign will do best with doing the exercises for their own sign. And I like the word tonify, which is used in Eastern medicine a lot. And that word basically means to balance. So whether it's really strong and stiff or it's too agile and limber, tonify means to simply balance it. And that's really what we're focusing on with each sign. But just because you're a Libra, you might have, let's say you have bunions on your feet, and that's Pisces. So those bunions and those foot problems can have to do with the fact that at this moment in your life, you're really learning, you're needing to understand the lessons of Pisces and integration between the spiritual and material world. That could be at this moment where your life lesson is at. So at any moment in time, the part of your body that's experiencing pain can actually be such an indicator to what your life lesson is at that moment.
Okay, so that automatically triggers a question for me, because on and off throughout my life, I've always had lower back pain. Sometimes I throw it out, sometimes I sneeze and it goes out, and sometimes it just hurts for no particular reason. And I've tried acupuncture, I've tried massage, I've tried chiropractic, going to a chiropractor. I've tried all sorts of things, but is there, just in telling you that, is there something that you could see, Rebecca, that I could do to help that? Because I'm not a Libra, I'm a Scorpio.
Right. So I'll say something about this, and I think Stephanie can add it as well. Though, to start with, I would say that being a Libra, you're a Scorpio, but all of the challenges that you're experiencing are in the Libra area, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so first of all, we recommend in the book a whole lot of lifestyle attunements. It's not just saying, do this one exercise and that'll fix everything. And we're approaching it really in many of the ways that it was approached throughout history, which were that environment, places you go, what you eat, the way you're moving, the way you're thinking and feeling will all affect it. So, for example, what you're experiencing is low back pain. I mean, I love the Libra story because it's actually so simple. It's like bending over backwards. Low back pain essentially comes from somebody that has been bending over backwards so much, whether it's with your work, with your family, with your partner. You've been overexerting that part of your body. You've been doing so much for everybody else and putting yourself on the back burner, bottom line. So any sign can experience low back pain, and it really calls attention to the need to rebalance yourself and also to understand and learn how to put yourself, to value yourself and to sometimes put yourself first. And sometimes that's the biggest Libra lesson. So in the book, there's a whole lot of lifestyle attunements that help you with that. And for you, I would recommend to do these for a consistent period of time to really get, to really wake it up and for it to become part of your being and part of your cellular structure. And then soon it's going to feel normal. It's great to start with like 40 days of something. So I would love to hear back, though, how that goes for you.
I just got a little bit emotional when you were talking about that because it is very much the truth of how I am. And my husband actually yells at me for it because I spend so much time, like I'm trying to help my mom and my dad through, they're trying to move and all sorts of stuff. And then I'm trying to help my best friend with her wedding, and I'm trying to help him with his big test that he's going to be taking. And I'm just trying to help everyone. And he'll ask me, you've been sharing about this a little rough. He'll just ask me something simple like, what do you want to do tonight? And I can't even think of something that I, in my heart, want to do. I'll just be like, I don't know, what do you want to do? But when it comes to helping anybody else, I all of a sudden have this laundry list of, I need to do this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this. It's very clear.
Wow. Instead of...
Yeah, Stephanie, go ahead.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And if you don't mind, I'll take it one step further. And as I tell my patients, better out than in. And when you cry, you give permission to others to cry. So the lower back thing, and I'm there with you right now. It's my lower back too, even though my sun sign is Sagittarius. You just mentioned that when space or time is deflected onto you, you don't know what to do with it. So given that your sun sign is Scorpio, I would change the way you're looking at that and ask, well, maybe it's not what you do at that time, but how you be. Scorpio and the sacral center it relates to is all about emotion. Our Scorpio energy is a very passionate energy. And so the way in which you might not be supporting yourself is by not being true to your emotions. We've distilled each of our chapters into essences, themes. The one for Libra is balancing the scales of truth with grace, and everyone has their own personal truth. And I'm guessing that your truth is a much more expansive, robust, emotionally truth than you're currently living. And that's not to say you don't feel emotions. Clearly you do. But relative to yourself, if you're feeling this much emotion, you might have so much more emotion to feel. And in terms of the body, with Libra on the lower back in Scorpio, well, the lower back muscles attach onto the pelvis, like the pelvic bowl, the sacral center. They affect your sacral center. Your sacral center affects your lower back. They are literally physically tied together. So here you have this gorgeous lesson, this part of your body calling your attention, and why is it this part of your body? And so here you have the ability to delve into the lower back, but understand it through the lens of Scorpio. Again, that you're bending over backwards to please people and not receiving the support that you need as you're supporting others, but the support you need is really to express your greater truth, a greater range of self, which again is probably even more emotions. So I would love to see you for the back do a strengthening pose, like a boat pose, which I believe we include in the book. That's great stabilizing for the back and the abdominal muscles, which also keep the lower back strong. But also then to release, Rebecca mentioned that juxtaposition between strong and supple. For the supple part, for Scorpio to open up into that, I'd love you to do like hip circles, hip figure eights, to get that energy flowing.
Thank you so much, both of you. I just like that it very much speaks to a stoppage that I've been feeling in myself as well. So this is just crazy. You guys are blowing my mind because it just really does feel like I've been stopped up, and I've had a lot of back pain recently, and just everything you're saying makes so much sense.
You got to let go when the Scorpio stagnates. That it's an energy that the theme for that chapter is die, transform, and soar, to give you a sense of like how vast it is. You're meant to live that vastness. It's our pleasure. We wrote this book to help you, to help everyone who's willing to be helped in this regard. So thank you for allowing us to.
And for everybody watching, I'll show it one more time. So this is their beautiful book that will get you as much as I just got in this last 15 minutes just talking to them. It's amazing. And you can go to www.beyondword.com/thestars, and you'll get it at a great discount. Right now we have it listed for only $11.20. So run on there, get it, and start to figure out what's going on with you, because it's not just your back pain, as I just learned.
I would just like to add something to what Stephanie just said too. Please. I love that you mentioned Libra and Scorpio, two signs that are connected. As you know, there's no real brick walls in the sky that separate each sign, and same with our body. So whatever your sign is, it's a great exercise to look at the sign that came before it and the sign that came after it. So even if your sign is Capricorn, for example, the knee, what supports the knee is the Sagittarius thigh and the hip too. So to really understand the sandwich signs and together, and it really just all tells one big epic story of the zodiac and your body.
Well, and I would assume, and tell me if I'm crazy, but I would assume that you would also advise that people don't get focused on just like one area. I mean, yes, definitely, I will do the boat exercises. I'll explore that for sure, but I know personally, and I think for a lot of people, we tend to be like, okay, this is the problem I have. I'm going to go look at this particular section, and then I'm going to move on. And by moving on, I mean leave the book on the shelf and not look at it again because I've dealt with my issue.
Yes.
So in terms, how would you incorporate this into a daily practice, Rebecca? How would you see that happening?
Well, I'm doing that right now, and that's what I recommend to a lot of clients. For example, I have a client that's an actor, okay, and she has auditions all the time. So for her, and really just as a daily practice, she's doing all of the Leo exercises. Because let's say you do have a big audition, and you really need to amplify your being, your brightness, your light, and just feel so strong, powerful, and expressive in the world. So let's say that the Leo qualities, and she does all of them, really strengthen her ability to get on stage and be magnificent. So whatever you're feeling if in your life that you need more of at any given moment, let's say you're needing more rest and trust and flow and softness, and that quality, perhaps you do a couple of the Piscean exercises for that sense of trust and compassion to amplify that. So there's really something for wherever you're at, and you can totally read it like a novel from front to back, but I do like to use it a lot for, like, you know what, I really think I need to amplify this quality in myself more because it feels depleted. And I think everybody has one of those at any given moment in life, something that we can strengthen if we choose.
If we choose to stop and think about it, yes, probably.
That's the biggest question is, well, not only we like to ask people what else can this mean if something's going on with your body, that's the first question. Well, what else can this mean? And to just be open to that. And the next is really, I mean, I should say preliminary to that is, are you willing to really stop and consider the balance of your life and the question of how can you find more balance?
Those are very powerful questions. So I'm curious, Rebecca, also, just what you were saying had me think of the great talks that you do with Harper's Bazaar, the long explanations of what's going on for this particular month. How does the sign that we're in affect all of this that you guys have been working with? Does it?
A lot, yes, exactly. So right now, that's a great question too. We're in Gemini season, so everybody living on planet Earth is really working with, because the sun happens to be in the sign of Gemini. We are all working with the quality of the arms and how we communicate ourselves. As you see right now, the arms and the hands are used so much in the way we speak, especially if you're from like Southern Europe, right? But for everybody, you know, there is that. Yes. So, and we're all working on that right now. So doing all of, I mean, that's another great way to approach the book is seasonally. We're in Gemini season right now. So doing all of the kind of arm exercises and hand exercises and finger mudras can be wonderful at this moment to strengthen that. And yep, everybody on the planet is working on that right now.
And so if we randomly, thinking about that just yesterday, I felt this weird twinge in my arm, and so I'm just like, okay, that makes more sense now. Something that has never happened before, of course, as well. So, and one of the things, Dr. Stephanie, that I know that you were doing that I think is so fascinating, and you kind of went into it just a little bit with me there, is that you're actually integrating this into yoga practices. And so do you have, in your book, do you have that kind of monthly yoga practice, and would you recommend that we do the yoga practice for the season that we're in?
I recommend doing whatever works for you. So if the season you're in is what makes sense to you, is what resonates with you, like, oh, okay, we're in Gemini. That's how I want to understand the balancing of my energies. Go for it, unless a body part is calling your attention, right? And then I would direct you toward the chapter related to that body part. The yoga, not all of the exercises and activities are yoga. There is a good portion of them that are from my training as well as from Rebecca's training. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and I guess something that pops into my mind as well is that I know that you guys focus on yoga. Is there, I have a personal trainer, so we do weights and we do things like that. And Rebecca, what you said about tonalizing, is that what you said? Tonifying the muscles. Is it better to choose the more serene kind of like yoga practices versus weightlifting and things like that to tonify your body, or can you do both?
Well, that's a great question too. When you look in the book, at the end of each chapter, we have two areas. So let's say you are there. For example, let's say a sign like Aries. There's one kind of Aries that might have really runny sinuses and things like that. And there's another kind of Aries that will have really tight sinuses and get migraines all the time. And these are two spectrums of the strong and supple side of each sign, and that's why there's a need to balance. So we do recommend like personal training kinds of exercises in the book, as well as Kundalini yoga, which is where my training is, and in Vinyasa yoga, where Stephanie's training is. So we've included both of our backgrounds, as well as, and a lot of what you're speaking of, and as far as just regular exercises, a lot of those are strengthening. So like if your low back is weak, I love that Stephanie was recommending the boat pose and things like that that are really about strengthening it. So for you, that would probably be best. But for your sacrum, for the Scorpio, we'd recommend a more fluid, yoga pose. So it differs from body part to body part. And a lot of what we recommend as well are simply lifestyle adjustments too. Yeah.
What? I have to adjust my lifestyle? No. It's amazing. We all just want change without having to change. You know? We're funny like that, we people.
With anything, I'm sorry, just to tag on to what you just said, we all do want change without wanting to make the changes. Couldn't agree more. So I think what we'll be starting soon is more of a community around the book, and having a lot of people to be doing one exercise as a community together, and maybe we'll do it seasonally, but that kind of sort of feeling of connectivity to a group really helps a lot with making changes. So that should be coming up down the road as well.
So another question that I have, I am also on a weight loss path right now with my husband, and it is very, very obvious that he and I have very different temperaments when approaching this. But anyway, how do you maintain that balance while also, I'm trying to strengthen my whole body. I'm trying to slim it down. I'm trying to get healthy. Really, is my goal is to be healthy. So how do you balance that kind of goal with also just observing what your body is doing? Dr. Stephanie, I'll ask you to answer first.
Health is health. It's all your body, whether it's weight you're looking to lose, a back you're looking to strengthen, the sacral center you're looking to access more. In terms of emotions, I have found, and it's not true for everyone, but at a general level, a lot of people who are more stifled emotionally, who aren't expressing the full range of emotions, tend to effectively build walls without realizing it, and those walls end up manifesting physically as weight. So
yeah,
I tend to approach, I don't tend to deal with like weight loss as its own thing, but I see being a healthy weight as part of being a healthy person, and everything is very interconnected. So for me, it's not, I don't see it as different boxes, right? Your back versus your weight. It's about that balance that you just alluded to, and at the end of the day, I can only guide you toward that balance. And that balance is going to be dynamic. You're the one who's going to have to listen and keep listening more deeply and more deeply in order to understand your balance. Realizing, though, that it looks like this. Think about standing with one foot on the ground. Your foot's going to keep adjusting in micro movements, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to never just be completely static, completely still. Static balance is a fallacy for us. We're at a dynamic chemical equilibrium, every cell in our body all of the time. So think about then at the macro level, that balance in terms of how much you eat versus how much you exercise versus how much you sleep, how much you work, how much you give for others, et cetera, and the proof is in the pudding. You're going to need to try a lot of different things. And hopefully you have good people around you there who can, help offer different, modalities and means of encouragement, and then ultimately see what works for you. And what works for you now will evolve. And that's part of, I think we were talking about this a minute ago in the interview, that's part of the beauty of the book, and that you don't just put it on, you don't read it once, put it on the table, and never look at it again, is that your needs are going to evolve over time. So you will always be able to reference the book to understand what your different needs are telling you and how to address them.
I would like to add one thing to that. That's beautiful. She was mentioning Libra before, right? So the challenge was in the lower back. And what came before that is Virgo, which is almost Libra is a reaction to Virgo. So it's strengthening the abdomen, the sense of self, and even going from that, so then we don't bend over backwards for people. Because if the Virgo area is strengthened enough, then it's like, well, we can't bend over backwards anyway, or bend too much forwards, because the abdomen and the sense of self and that I am quality is just holding you so intact. So, there's such a process here. So you know, you're starting from your sign Scorpio, and you see how we sort of domino back from Libra, and it's like, okay, let's peel the layer even deeper. Where are the origins of this? So it's going back to really the origins of self-worth and the sense of self, which is the abdomen area. So
Okay.
it's a whole journey here.
It's opening. You guys just keep opening more and more stuff up for me, and I really, I know I have a lot of work to do.
We all do.
Yeah, right.
We all do.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I really appreciate that, because sometimes it feels like, and I think everybody feels this, it feels like everybody else got it all together, and I'm just kind of bumbling around trying to figure things out. But so how, I know just from what you guys have shared with me since we started the interview, I have a pretty good idea of where my walls might be. How can other people explore where they might have walls?
That's
Dr.
an
Stephanie,
interesting
I'll go with
question.
you because you mentioned the walls.
No, I mentioned the walls. I brought up the walls. Yeah, there tends to be a lot of walls around emotionality, as Rebecca just very presciently brought up Virgo and sense of self and worth. There tend to be a lot of walls around that as well, or I guess the absence of wall, because a lot of people at a very, very deep level, not at the conscious level, but much deeper, feel this lack of self-worth, which can also prevent us from engaging in healthy living, healthy patterns when we prioritize everyone in the kitchen sink over ourselves. Part of what we're saying is, I'm not worth the same half an hour that I'm spending on everyone in the kitchen sink. And now, I'm sorry, I've digressed far enough from your question. I forgot what the original question is. Oh, how can people notice their own walls?
Well, figure out where they are, because I think, just like you said, it's like they're so deep that you're blind to them, and just having you guys say where mine are is just like, wow.
Yeah, you're blind, but your body's also going to tell you. I mean, Whitney, you told us. You brought up the lower back. We went from there, right? So you can use your body as a way in toward the book, because that's going to absolutely tell you something that is out of whack, out of balance, out of harmony, whether it's too much wall or too little wall. There's also, as Rebecca said before, what attribute, you might not be called toward a body part, but you might just be thinking, I see someone who wants more compassion toward herself. Right? So you can enter in that way with what characteristics, what qualities do you want to build, and quite honestly, if all of this is a big question mark, yeah, we do have a body scan that you can work through, but if you're not even that in touch with your body to do it, ask the book.
I have
what do I need to know? Open it up. Here I am. Oh my God, no joke. Open it up to half boat pose, right? Right there, and for the back. And that's the region that I need to work on right now, too. So the book knows.
I actually use it the same way, Stephanie. Just say, okay, what do I need to work on today? And Heart of the Lion. Okay, that's a wonderful way to approach it. Yes.
Well, for everybody watching, so you can get your own roadmap to your own body and start opening it to random pages and finding out more stuff about you. Go to our website, www.beyondword.com/thestars, and you can get this copy, maybe not this copy, but because I'm probably going to take this home with me and read through the whole thing. But grab a copy, and it's $11.20, and it's an amazing deal for what sounds like just like the key to everything that you're dealing with, it seems like. And I love the fact that we got into this conversation about weight, and it's not just because I'm obsessed with it, but it's like, it's something that everybody's dealing with, and I know 100%, and I've shared this on the show before, but I think about 3 or 4 years ago, I lost 97 pounds, and then I got a boyfriend and I gained it all back. And that, of course, just tells me that I didn't deal with what I needed to deal with. People kept telling me, Whitney, you figured out this new lifestyle, this new way to eat, this new way to function. And I apparently hadn't. So it's fascinating to me to think about this in a different way, and to not just have to sit down and think about myself
I wouldn't see it as black or white. I wouldn't say to yourself that you didn't figure something out. I would say that we're all onions, and you might have peeled back one layer of the onion, but now you're just looking at the next layer of the onion to peel. And while I do think our book is totally awesome, obviously totally biased because I wrote it, it is not everything to all people. It is not the one definitive thing. In fact, Rebecca and I, it's important to us that it's not intended to be an astrology book. It's intended to be a wellness book because there's so many wellness modalities out there: yoga, nutrition, acupuncture, tai chi, spinning, Pilates, whatever have you. Astrology, the ancient wisdom of it, why not bring it back to modern times as another wellness modality? But at the end of the day, wellness is living what works for you. So I think it would be going against what we wrote to be like, this is it. This is the one thing. This is the one book that's going to heal everything, solve all of your problems.
I'm just getting excited because
I know, and thank you. But just no, and I love that. Are you kidding? I love hearing that. But to be fair, because I think it's part of, we like to hype up a lot of things in society, especially in the wellness world, as this is the one thing that's going to make you thin and rich and sexy and smell good.
That's what everybody's looking for.
But wellness is a journey. It's a journey. So we just present the journey as, through the stars. And I also want to add that we all have, we all have that one ditch. I'm sure you've heard that story of, somebody's walking down the street and they fall into the ditch. And they're like, oh, I better not do that again. And then we walk across the street again and we fall into the same ditch. It's almost like cellular memory. So, and then, that story, we keep doing it. And then finally we realize there's another neural pathway we could start and there's another way. But it takes a lot of times falling into the ditch. And I feel like each one of us, I know I do, we all have that same ditch that we keep going into. It's like, oh, there again. 20 years later, I thought I had it down. We all have one of those things. And the same lessons keep coming back over and over and over in a different hat, in a different form. So, I mean, whether it's a Scorpio lesson, a Pisces lesson, a Virgo lesson, we all have one of those. So, I mean, I feel like what you're saying right now, so many listeners can relate to. And I have my lessons that are around Virgo a lot, and Stephanie has hers too, that are around Libra or Sagittarius, and we all have this. I think if you get anybody talking, there's one really deep lesson that our soul and our body is trying to uncover this lifetime.
As you guys are talking, I just keep thinking about the relationships with people and how maybe it's because I do have the weakness in the Scorpio, or I don't know. I feel the impact of people on me very strongly. However they're being or whatever they're dealing with, it just kind of comes into me almost. And I guess my question really is, how do you best, what is something that I can do to relate to somebody that maybe is affecting me in a way that I don't want to have happen? Does that make sense, Rebecca? Can you speak to that at all?
Certainly. Yes. So you're extremely empathic, extremely compassionate, and your Libra quality is intensified a lot. I would love to see your chart. I'm sure you have a lot of other signatures of empathy and water all flowing within your chart. Do you happen to know your moon and rising sign, too?
No.
Okay. I mean, I would bet
sign.
There's probably a great deal of water and air, which are both very porous elements in you, I would guess. We can have a look, too.
Okay.
Though, can you repeat the question? I digressed too just now. Can you repeat?
No, I'm thinking, and the more I share on the show, I always discover that some things that I feel are just me, or not just me, but are lots of other people. But I just feel like people and the way people are being around me affect me a lot. Yes. And is there something that I can do to? I mean, I don't want to block them completely because that seems cold and very not who I am. But to to help them and to help myself at the same time instead of bending over backwards yet again.
Beautiful. So I have a couple ideas that come to mind, first of all, and I'm sure Stephanie can add as well. Another thing I like to do is look at polarity a lot. So for example, if you look at the zodiac as a circle and you say, wow, well, most of my challenges are in Libra. What's the sign that's opposite Libra? It's Aries. Aries is the total opposite of Libra. So the first thing that would come to mind is to strengthen the opposite, because they're not really such opposites. It's sort of like a yin-yang. One contains a dot of the other. And you want to balance both sides of that scale, both sides of that axis. So Aries is so much about the head and moving forward and that I am quality and strengthening that first of all. So it's almost the same thing. If you work with one end to work with the other, if you're taking on so much from the world and you're feeling so much and bending over backwards for everybody, I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to that, because I know you attract a lot of the healing community on this. And also that quality of holding other people's emotions and everything like that, that Libra-Scorpio area, we can tend to carry weight as well in the lower regions, and it's the hips, thigh area as well with that. It's taking on a lot of other people's emotions, which is that Scorpio-Libra thing. So anyway, it's balancing it off with here, because there's opposites in the body. There's polarity all over the body. So the opposite of the low back, we have the head of the ram. And there's a whole lot of great affirmations and mantras that I would recommend in the book for you. The first is, what comes to mind is the beautiful two words, I am. And Stephanie and I had so much fun with the Aries chapter because, well, first of all, neither of us had Aries in our chart. So these were great things to work on, actually. And they were hard, but really good and necessary. So so all of those like daily affirmations that are simply strengthening the sense of self. And that moves so much energy. It's crazy, actually. So I've, and you can actually put a word in afterward. You can say, I am strong, or you can say anything, or it can simply be I am. But grounding in that energy is what's the most important.
Dr. Stephanie, you have anything to add to that?
In terms of that line, that line of thought, yeah, sense of self, you need to be able to establish who you are to know when you stop and start and somebody else begins, right? Otherwise, you lose your construct of self within the other and take on the other's construct of self as your own. So even I am enough, right? Because you don't really have to even be anything unless there is something in particular you want to evoke, like I am strong, I am confident, whatever it is. But to work on a sense of self in order to draw the boundaries and prioritize the you time that the Libra energy is asking you to.
I just, that calls to mind all sorts of things that have been happening just even in the last couple of days for me, and things that have really affected me, because my husband, he was born September 25th. That is Libra?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. And he's a very strong personality, and he very much, like, when he wants to do something, this is what we're going to do, and this is just how we go. And I tend, just like you were saying, Dr. Stephanie, I just kind of absorb into him and go and do whatever it is he wants to do, because that's just easiest. Is the word that comes to mind. And yeah, just working on my sense of self-worth, and I am enough, and I am the hardest one to say always, and I think thousands of millions of people out there are going to have the same issue, but it's just I am beautiful, just how I am.
And you are.
Yeah.
And pattern changes a bitch,
Yeah.
If you're used to absorbing into your husband for years, it's just like someone who stands with a shoulders forward, this thoracic kyphosis position that we see a lot of in our society. If you've practiced standing in this position for 10 years, 20 years more, standing in your upright natural alignment is going to take a lot of time for you to change the position of those muscles so that it's not a forced opening, it's not a forced realignment, it actually becomes your own comfortable, natural stance, right? Because just because someone's used to doing this doesn't mean it's what's good for them. But to get from here to here takes time. And it also takes self-forgiveness. So for everyone, no matter what you're working on, what the pattern is you are changing, know that it's a time game, and know that it's not just one upward trajectory. You know, wellness looks like this, peaks and valleys, as it is headed up. So along that way, to be kind to yourself, not to make it another thing that, you know, we have to do, we should do.
Thanks so much for saying that, Stephanie. Really, I mean, I think that's so good for everybody to remember that it's not just this like steep road up to perfection, you know, and to be compassionate with yourself wherever you are along in your journey, for sure. And what I love about what you just said too is that connection between your actual muscles and your brain. And that's really what we're talking about in this whole book, is that, you know, it's really hard to have a depressive thought if you're sitting with great posture and your chest open. It's very hard to think about self-loathing in that position. It just is. But if I sit like this, all hunched over, it's very easy to be so disgruntled with life and complaining, and those thoughts just conjure up so much quicker. And so your body posture and very much dictate your brain chemistry. And that's why we recommend a lot of finger mudras in the book. You know, like this is the one that's seen so often, but in the book we recommend many different kinds of mudras. And just speaking about how your body posture registers in your brain chemistry is a lot of what we speak to.
I never knew that. That's amazing. I didn't know that the way that you sit would have that effect on your brain, and that says a lot about how I've been feeling at work, because I tend to sit like this, you know, like hunched over and little, and just kind of getting my work done in the day. And that doesn't leave me feeling like I can take on that new project or you know, maybe work on this particular aspect of the company that I've never worked on before, whatever that is.
Exactly. And I think a lot of us do at work all day with iPhones especially, you know, and texting. People are hunched over so much. And that has such effect of the quality of not only what we're saying and everything, but how we're feeling, how we're treating ourselves. So yeah, I mean, physical exercises factor so greatly in emotional brain chemistry, and that's why we recommend a lot of things. People, I know there's some people that say, why do they recommend plank? You know, but there's an actual psychological, emotional, and spiritual component to strengthening that part of the physical. So you can approach it anyway, and that's why Stephanie and I made a decision to approach it from every way in the book. You'll see there's not all exercises. It's mantras and mudras and physical exercises. So I figured you might as well go every angle.
And writing exercises and self-directed questions. You know, so much of us are living our lives as brains in jars. And Whitney, you know, as you're talking about hunched over on the computer, and Rebecca's bringing up the iPhone, and, you know, everything that we're doing, so much of it focuses on the mind, not the body, certainly not the emotions, and probably not soul or spirit. You know, so another reason we're probably tired at the end of the day is, well, if we've got all of these body, emotion, mind, spirit resources, and we're really only using mind, maybe a little bit body, of course we're going to be taxed out, because we're meant to use everything we've got, and here we are using just 1/5, 1/6 of it.
It's making me think of how I see over and over and over again I do the social media for our company. They always talk about that exercise boosts your mood. And automatically people are like, oh, well, yeah, I've known that forever because exercise equals endorphins, which makes you happy. But what you guys are talking about is even deeper than just, going and running on the treadmill for 10 minutes. It's like in between those things, those every moment in between. Wow. So like,
but it's running on the treadmill, but also with the intentionality, right? So we're not even saying, look, mudras might serve your purpose one day running on the treadmill another day, but what's the meaning behind it? What's the intention behind it? How are you doing it? Are you on the treadmill, plugged in with your coffee mug, kind of just, running, thinking about the grocery list? Or are you running because you want to do some good cardio for your heart, because you want to get into your Leo nature and you want to live a more shiny, vibrant version of yourself? That's going to be a very different 10 minutes in quality than the aforementioned example, right? So it's not just the what, it's also the how.
And I would add that will extremely, you'll have completely different results too. One is stress-oriented, and one is coming from a place of play, and one is coming from a place of work. And a lot of this is language too, will affect your results.
That you guys are blowing my mind again, because one of the things that I always think about, and I know a lot of us think about, it's if you're focused on like running a particular distance, or you're focused on running at a particular speed, like working up to that or whatever, it just becomes a slog. You're just like, okay, I just got to get through this however long to get to this, to get to a mile, or to get to 2 miles, or I have to get my mile down to this time. And it doesn't, it seems like it takes forever, even though it's just that same 10 minutes. It just takes forever. And so to have that different aspect of it engaged, I can totally see how that would change. My trainer is having me run, can you tell? And I don't like running, so I'm really excited to take that mindfulness into the next time that I get to go run a mile, and see what that does, and see if it makes it easier, more playful.
Beautiful.
Yay!
Thank you.
I never thought that was possible, to make running sound like fun.
For what it's worth, again, I meet patients where they're at, but there have been a whole handful of patients who already run, and I ask them to bring a certain intentionality of bringing up emotions for patients who need to feel more. And sometimes it's anger, because it's anger they're really holding in that they need to get up and out. Sometimes it's joy, like you were saying, playfulness, and that with each step, to just energize and express and evoke whatever that emotion is.
Well,
you can do it.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna go do that. I have a 1 mile run on the calendar for tomorrow, so I'm gonna do it.
There was a recent study. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'd love to hear about that.
There was a recent study done on chambermaids that did a whole lot of, it was called work. They said, okay, you're going to have to do this as work, and just do it, get it done. And the work involved a ton of physical, strenuous labor, right? Mm-hmm. And they did that. And then there was another group that they said, okay, they didn't label it as work. It was labeled as you're going to go play, and we're all going to do this thing together, And first of all, the level of stress lowered a lot when you label it differently, and they're interacting and they're having fun doing this thing together. And there was extreme differences in the weights and the weight loss that happened when looking at it as play, and this lowers stress and cortisol levels, and there's so much of the weight. This is a bit of a digression, but as you know, is in cortisol, and so just reframing it, relabeling these things, and we really encourage that a lot too in this. It's just trying to look at these things we do on a daily basis differently. Like I told my friend this morning, I said, I'm going to go play today. I'm going to work, but I say I'm going to go play, and it just puts it casts a whole other light on every action.
I love that. I'm going to go play today. I'm going to go play today. And we are very close to the end of our hour. I can't believe it. That flew by. And I just want to share, number one, share once again, you can get your copy of Your Body in the Stars at www.beyondword.com/the stars for $11.20. And then also, I just wanted to make sure that both Dr. Stephanie and Rebecca, you guys have a chance to share with people, how can they get in touch with you? How can they possibly even see you in person? Dr. Stephanie, I'll have you go first.
Best way to get in touch with me is through my website, iambodiment.com. So iambodiment.com. You can email me through there. You can certainly learn more about services, classes I teach, my private practice. But you can also sign up for my newsletter, which is monthly, educationally based, and get a free recording of the Global Breath video to remind you how to breathe. And the breath is amazing at all levels, body, emotion, mind, and spirit. So my gift to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Rebecca, how do people get in touch with you?
Thanks. So my website is called mypathastrology.com. It's about finding your path in life. And most of what I do is astrological consultations, as well as run an astrology school if you're interested in learning how to read birth charts and use astrology to help you in your own life. You don't have to want to become a professional astrologer to do this too. So it's spelled like MYPATH, astrology.com. And as well, it's the same on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, My Path Astrology. I as well send a monthly newsletter out with my horoscopes in it, as well as a focus each month, which is like almost usually 1,500 words about that sign and the whole year ahead. So it's pretty detailed.
Fantastic.
Yeah, for it if you'd like. There's a whole lot of information monthly as well. And Stephanie's is great also. I get hers too.
We like each other's newsletters. We know at least one person is reading each other's newsletter.
Well, I really want to just from the bottom of my heart thank you both for being on the show and for all of the amazing work that you've done in putting this together and just creating this wonderful resource for people, and also for working with me, because that was a wonderful, wonderful lesson. I've just learned so much. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Whitney.
Thank you, Whitney. It was such an honor.
Yeah.
Well, for everybody watching, thank you for watching. Again, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and like us on YouTube, and we will be back in a couple of weeks. Have a great day. Have fun playing.